Uh, Good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Erica Mallon, Executive Director of NISCA. We are happy to be joined by more than 500 people today from all 10 New York State regions. As some of you know, I was appointed in January 2024. And while this is my first grant-making round as an Executive Director of NISCA, I am not a stranger to the process. Early in my career, I was a development director, and later I ran a cultural institution. I have had the experience of submitting many a NISCA application. I understand the care and attention that goes into every single application. And I know the potential impact these grant opportunities will have across New York State. We know that our creative economy is still struggling, and it is our goal at NISCA to support artists and organizations through these rapidly evolving times. We are working to help stabilize, grow, and find creative solutions to help the industry move forward. So I want to give a quick summary of our grant making. In this coming cycle for FY2025, NISCA will award $82 million in general operating support, which we believe is the best kind of funding. We believe it gives leaders of organizations the autonomy to know what is best, what they need. We also are giving artist support to give them the freedom to create and experiment and to cultivate their highest creative powers. We also will have $80 million in capital. This historic investment by Governor Hochul and the state legislature demonstrates their understanding of the importance and impact of our sector and of supporting the diversity of arts and culture across the state. So NISCA's grant making wholly supports this diversity, both culturally and geographically. We are a unique state as we serve rural areas, small towns, mid-sized cities, and a major global hub. We support organizations and artists in all 10 regions and across all disciplines, from performing arts to filmmaking, from multidisciplinary work to literature. Last year, in FY24, our direct and indirect funding reached over 3,000 artists and organizations across the state. And we overwhelmingly support small and medium-sized organizations. Again, for FY2024, 50% of our grantees had budgets under $500,000, and 84% had operating budgets under $3 million. And year over year, we have increased our grants by double digits to artists and first-time grantees. We are very proud of this work and to offer this support, because when we champion artists and institutions across our state, we are not only directly contributing to the artists, arts workers, and organizations, but to our state's economy, the vibrancy and health of our communities, and to following your lead as innovators, change makers, and the futurists of our society. We thank you. Before we move on and get right to it, I'd like to recognize some NISCA staff. Abby Adler, Manager of the Executive Office, Megan White, Deputy Director of Programs and all of her program staff, Karen Welch, Deputy Director of Operations and her staff, and Anne-Marie Sechrist, Director of Communications and her staff, to deliver these opportunities to the field. And finally, a few housekeeping items before we begin the webinar. Today's webinar will be an overview of our FY2025 opportunities, and we will review questions that were submitted in advance. We will not review the capital opportunity that will launch this fall. We will be hosting specific opportunity webinars next week, which will include live Q&As, and a full schedule and registration links will be shared and posted to our website following today's webinar. All webinars, including today's, will be recorded and posted on our website. And now I'm going to introduce Megan White, our Deputy Director of Programs, and ask her, what is the first step to applying for NISCA funding? Megan?
Thank you so much, Erica. So what's the first step to apply for NISCA funding? It is pre-qualification. Nonprofit organizations must be pre-qualified to do business in New York State agencies before they can compete for New York State grants. This process allows nonprofits to address questions and concerns prior to entering a competitive bid process. New for this year, pre-qualification has moved to the New York Statewide Financial System, or SFS. You must be pre-qualified in SFS by the application deadline to be considered for funding. Please note that SFS is a separate portal from the application portal. Smart Simple is not administered by NISCA, and you can start this process today. Please do not wait to start this process. There are so many resources to help you through the pre-qualification process. Instructions are included in our guidelines and application manual, and we have a pre-qualification webinar that's available on the NISCA website right now, so you can get started today. For new applicants, please begin the pre-qualification process. I can't emphasize this enough, as soon as possible. For returning applicants, you can log on to the SFS vendor portal to check on your pre-qualification status and key expiration dates. If you have any additional pre-qualification questions, you can reach the NISCA pre-qualification team or the SFS help desk at the contact information on this slide. The NISCA team is here to help, and we really don't want anyone to not make it through the pre-qualification process unsuccessfully.
Great. So pre-qualification, that's that. So now let's talk about the opportunities, including the key dates, eligibility, and go more specifically into what the grant opportunities are.
Sure. Well, our guidelines were posted on May 8th. Our portal to actually submit the application opens on June 5th. The portal will close on July 17th at 4 p.m. There are no exceptions to that date or that time. Everything that you need to start the process is available now on our website. In order to be eligible for NISCA funding, you must be a nonprofit organization, either incorporated or registered to do business in New York State, Native American nations in New York State, or a unit of government in New York State municipalities. Your principal location also must be located in New York State. Please review the eligibility as listed in our guidelines. Moving right into our funding categories or opportunities, first we have support for organizations. And this category provides flexible general operating and programming funding for nonprofit organizations. This opportunity is limited to one request per organization and may be awarded as a multi-year grant. We'll discuss multi-year grants later on in this session. Although organizations may only submit one application for their own entity to NISCA support for organizations, they may also serve as fiscal sponsors for other unincorporated organizations. Additionally, universities or other organizations that apply on behalf of a department or an embedded program must also apply as fiscal sponsors. The Support for Organizations webinar and live Q&A will be available on Tuesday, May 21st at 11 a.m. Please plan to attend if you have questions or if you plan to apply. The next category is support for artists. So NISCA embraces the rich diversity of art making across New York, and applicants from all artistic practices and disciplines are encouraged to apply. Applicants must apply through a New York State nonprofit organization acting as a fiscal sponsor. We get a lot of questions about fiscal sponsors every year. Any registered New York State nonprofit arts and cultural organization that is pre-qualified can serve as a sponsor. Your sponsoring organization doesn't have to be related to your discipline. For example, a nonprofit museum can sponsor a music group. A social service organization can sponsor individual artists. These grant funds fund creative commissions to individual artists across the state. And there are 8 commission areas: choreography, composer, film, media, and new technology, folk and traditional arts, interdisciplinary, literature, theater commissions, and visual arts. For more information on the Support for Artists opportunity, please join the webinar and the live Q&A that will happen next week, Wednesday, May 22nd at 11 a.m. The next area that I will talk about is targeted opportunities. So these are creative performance residencies. This particular opportunity supports a minimum 3 consecutive week residency by New York-based performing arts groups in a targeted area of New York State outside of the applicant's home county and outside of New York City. Sponsored requests are not eligible in this category. There is also rehearsal and studio space for performing arts, which is intended to support creative rehearsal time in organizations that provide viable and affordable space for nonprofit arts groups and artists. Sponsored requests are also not eligible in this category. There's folk and traditional arts apprenticeships. Now, this funding provides individuals experienced in a folk art with opportunities to study with master folk artists from their own community. Priority is given to apprenticeships involving the transmission of traditions that are no longer widely practiced. Support is awarded to both the master and the apprentice. The Targeted Opportunities webinar and live Q&A will be next week, Thursday, May 23rd at 11 a.m. The next category I will talk about is regrants and services. This opportunity is by invitation only. It supports regrant and partner organizations across all 62 counties while identifying new unmet opportunities to ensure the greater reach of NISCA funding and greater access for new applicants. Partnerships cover a range of services, and funding ensures that NISCA dollars reach all 62 counties in New York State. Now, I mentioned we would talk a little bit about multi-years, and I will just say that NISCA awards both single and multi-year grants. Applicants cannot request multi-year grants. NISCA awards multi-year grants when the panel, staff, and council agree that a similar level of activity will be sustained by the applicant organization over successive years. Multi-year grants represent NISCA's agreement to offer successive years of support without requiring a full application and review of the grantee in the succeeding years, conditional on NISCA's appropriation and the applicable contract execution for each successive year. I'd like to talk a minute about how applications are evaluated. Please review the information as listed in each set of guidelines as well as the application manual. But all requests undergo a 4-step review process. First, the NISCA staff reviews the application for completion and a fiscal review for solvency. Next, the panel reviews the application and support materials and rates based on 3 criteria: creativity, public service, and fiscal and managerial. And support for artists, they review just the creativity criteria. Third, the NISCA Council reviews these recommendations and approves them. And finally, if an applicant wishes to appeal a council decision, they may submit a formal appeal, which is a separate review process that looks for error in the previous review process. Key to how we operate are our panelists. Each year, panelists play a key role in our grant making. NISCA selects a diverse group of professionals from across the state to fulfill the advisory panelist role. Panelist expertise spans a range of artistic practices, as well as many facets of nonprofit management. Advisory panelists must demonstrate expertise in at least one of NISCA's evaluation criteria. NISCA is currently seeking panelists from all 10 regions of the state. All FY24 panel FY25 panel meetings will be conducted virtually, and our nominations are all due by July 22nd, 2024 to be considered for panel service this calendar year. If you would like to nominate yourself or a colleague, please visit our website. There's more information as well as a form where nominations can be submitted. Now, if you want to contact anyone, I'm here with questions, and that's what we're here for. For technical questions on submitting online applications or pre-qualification, contact our help desk. For opportunity-related questions, please contact our program staff in the funding area that's most aligned with your organization's work. All staff contact information can be found on our website under the About tab. We strive to make sure that your questions are answered. Our webinars and office hours are not the only times that you can contact NISCA staff. Please reach out if you have a question. And for this particular FY25 grant cycle, please submit your questions regarding your applications at least 2 weeks before the application deadline. We serve the entire state. We want to make sure that we have enough time to get back to you in a timely manner. Please note that we do not review written application or written draft application materials. And I'll just add, if you're confused about any of that, you can reach out to me, Deputy Director of Programs, and I will be more than glad to redirect your inquiries to where they should go. So please mark your calendars. Our annual webinar week is next week, May 21st to the 23rd. The schedule and registration links for those webinars are currently on our website. Please note that all webinars are recorded and posted on the NISCA website. We will be hosting several virtual office hours also in June and July. These schedule and registration links will be posted later this month. Office hours are a little bit more intimate, where you can really get into the meat of very specific questions that you might have about eligibility or about your application. Please read the guidelines in their entirety before attending a NISCA webinar and office hour. And remember that you can always reach staff outside of the webinars and office hours with any questions. Additionally, attending webinars and contacting NISCA staff is optional. It has no bearing on the review of an application, although I will add that attending webinars and contacting NISCA staff is very highly advised and can greatly contribute to you having a competitive application.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. I know that was a lot of information, but we also gave so many different ways to contact us. Please avail yourself, as Megan said. It's so important that we hear from you, answer your questions, and again, so that you can submit a competitive application. So now we're going to go into the Q&A session. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions in advance. For the purposes of today, we'll be reviewing more general questions. If you have questions, again, that are more specific to your organization, we urge you to take, avail yourself of all the different opportunities you have to be in touch with us. So I'm going to pull together some of the top questions. One of them, Megan, is we get a lot of questions about pre-qualification. What can people do right now to start the process?
Well, there's a lot of resources that are available, Erica. Make sure to read the NISCA guidelines. You hear me say this a lot in this presentation because you need to read the guidelines, and they're located on our website that you can access at any time. Read the guidelines, the application manual, and the how to apply page on our website. They include pre-qualification instruction. We also have a top 10 tips on pre-qualification webinar that's on the website right now. You can also reach out to our pre-qualification team or the SFS help desk at the contact information that's on this slide right now.
So I know we've said this before, and I think I can answer the first question, but when do applicants have to pre-qualify? And I think that is by the application deadline. Don't wait, start the process today. You're going to hear that again and again. But one question here, do artists need to pre-qualify?
Artists do not need to pre-qualify. However, the organization that is acting as their fiscal sponsor does need to be pre-qualified.
Okay, again, a call to pre-qualify for fiscal sponsors. Okay, next question. Many of people want to know what's changed from last year to this year. So what's new in the guidelines?
Yeah, so very little has changed from last year's application if you applied last year, but I'll be specific. You'll see that information regarding the SFS transition for pre-qualification is included in each set of guidelines. We clarified language for which fiscal year budgets that organizations must submit. Rather than current fiscal year budget, we ask you to upload income statements showing both revenue and expenses for the fiscal year ending in 2023 and an approved budget for the fiscal year ending in 2024. There's a newly expanded organizational budget form. Board information for fiscal sponsors and organizations has been moved from registration questions to the application. Support for organizations, we're also asking you for more information regarding your board. In the support for artist guidelines, fiscal sponsors will need to include a draft agreement, a draft artist agreement. And in the support for organizations and regrants, your attendance number reporting has moved from registration to the actual application itself. And we really encourage you again to attend or watch the opportunity-specific webinars for more details on these changes. But that's it. Those are the changes to the guidelines from last year to this year.
Great. And I think many of those changes are good for, ease of application, but also to providing information. Okay, so how many opportunities can I apply for?
So an organization can apply for support for organizations, targeted opportunities, and your organization can also sponsor someone in support for artists. You can apply for all three. Please keep in mind that receiving any of these grants has no bearing on future capital applications either. And a reminder, not to be too confusing, but our capital opportunity will launch in the fall.
So what is the application deadline again for these opportunities?
Wednesday, July 7th at 4 p.m.
July
There are no
17th.
exceptions. Right. There are no exceptions to this deadline. So please be ready to apply. And you can
So,
get started now.
We can't say that more than enough. So can I apply for support for organizations if I received funding last year?
Yes, you can apply. However, if you're on multi-year, you don't need to apply.
Great. Again, we get questions, a lot of questions about this. Who can serve as a fiscal sponsor?
So any registered New York State nonprofit organization that is pre-qualified can serve as a sponsor. Again, your sponsoring organization doesn't have to be related to your organization's discipline. For example, a nonprofit museum can sponsor a music group, or a nonprofit social service organization can sponsor an artist. And for details regarding artist sponsorship, refer to the Support for Artists guidelines.
So I guess, again, we will tell you fiscal sponsors should pre-qualify as soon as possible. Okay, great. Are institutions of higher education eligible?
So entities with close public college or university affiliations are examined on a case-by-case basis to determine eligibility. Such applicants are strongly advised to contact NYSCA program staff in advance of the application deadline to determine eligibility.
This is another question we're getting, is hybrid an in-person, in-person and virtual programming eligible for funding, the hybrid?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We know that over the last couple of years in particular, organizations have grown their virtual programming significantly.
Okay, now can I apply for both the NYSCA statewide community re-grant and the main NYSCA opportunities in the same year?
No, you must choose one or the other. And this is why we encourage you to really reach out to NYSCA program staff, read the guidelines, make a careful decision, because you can only apply to one in the same fiscal year.
I'm gonna say, okay, so how do we determine which panel to select? And I will also say, I urge everyone here to nominate themselves, others to become a panelist. This is core to the work we do. This is a rigorous process, and they are very much a part of it. So how do we determine the panels?
Absolutely. So panels are made up from your peers of a specific artist area. Take into account your organization's mission and programming when making the determination of which panel you choose, and join our webinars and office hours if you have more specific questions.
How do we determine what support materials to include in our application?
So that will vary from organization to organization. You want to select the support materials that best show your organization's mission, programming, and service to your communities. Once again, join for the opportunity-specific webinars and office hours for more details on these materials.
Thank you, Megan. We're putting the key dates again, just to reiterate. The application portal opens Wednesday, June 5th and closes July 17th at 4 p.m. Everything you need to start preparing your application now is up on the NYSCA website. So this concludes our webinar, today's launch webinar. A reminder that it has been recorded and will be posted on our website along with this presentation deck. And we will again send an email around with a link when they're live. Lastly, I want to say it's an honor to serve all of you, and we applaud to your continued determination, bravery, innovation, and creativity, particularly in this very tough time. And we are honored to continue this vital work to serve you. So again, once again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to absolutely having you join our upcoming webinars and office hours, and to receiving your applications by Wednesday, July 17th. Again, thank you all so much and have a great day.
Thank you.